Welcome to another episode of Madge Unmuted. I am your host, Madge Madigan. No, my last name is not unmuted. I am here this week with a fantastic guest, one of the original OGs of Rochester media.
Wow, OG. OG for the OG.
We have Mr. Tom Proietti.
Hi, Madge.
Hi.
It's such a pleasure to be here. It's such a pleasure just to be out of the house.
Oh, I know.
Jeez.
Well, that doesn't really sound really... That's kind of a backhanded thing, but anyway.
Well, I am left-handed, so understand I do a lot of left-handed compliments. So.
Hey, and that other voice you hear is Scott Fitzgerald.
Hi.
Fitzy.
Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I forget about it.
My producer par excellence.
Oh, you're so fancy.
I like that.
I know.
Do you drink Dom Perignon?
I do, and I hold my pinky out. Anyway, Fitz, Rock Fox Studios, for all your recording needs. You want to record a podcast, a legacy thingy. What do you call it?
Legacy Cast.
Yeah,
Legacy
Legacy
Cast.
Cast. That's fabulous.
That is an awesome idea. You want to tell them what that is real quick?
Sure. That's where you bring your folks in. You bring your mom and your pops, or your grandpop and your grandmom, or your auntie Tilly.
Before
and you
they
sit
die.
down.
Yes.
Yeah, before they die. That's
them
a key.
in.
That's
Yep.
key.
I'm telling my kids now I'm going to be 75 next month.
They're
Before I
no
die.
way.
they're more likely to talk to the camera when they're still alive. But yeah,
it's
so
so
you sit
true.
down and you sit down for a couple of hours and you tell all the family stories and you record it really nice, top quality, high. I mean, I'm gonna pat myself on the back here, but pro quality video as opposed to with your iPhone.
I'm patting
I
you.
will pat you on the back because
you.
your work is really, truly outstanding. It
Thank
really
you very
is.
much. Coming from you, that's a big
Thank you.
compliment. I
Thank
appreciate
you. Well,
it.
I appreciate what you do. So.
It is. You freaking rock, Fitzy.
And
I
I know,
rock
you know,
Fox.
Scott, I know you put your life on the line to do this, and then the pandemic hit, and
Bastards.
it's so. I mean, you've survived. You've survived.
Yeah,
doing this.
it's been kind of an interesting ride
Yeah.
for all of us. For all of us.
I would love
Can
to
you not
sit
get
right behind you while you're paying your bills at the end of the month. Talk about rock and roll.
Hey,
Let's see, we can slide this.
So
50
that's
over
why we
here.
need you, the listeners and viewers,
Right.
to come on in and
And it is a great
do
service.
some shit with Fitzy.
Yeah, it is. It's a great
you
service.
got some sponsors, right, Madge? Now you got some folks that are helping you out a little
I
bit.
do have Stick and Rudder Pub in Fairhaven, which, you know what?
That's a great little place,
It's-
though.
Thank you.
It really
is,
is.
but I probably should just put that on hold because it's not open right
It's not
now.
open, right?
Oh,
I don't think it's open ever in the
Sorry,
winter time, is it?
John. He just opened it.
Yeah, okay.
And we were gonna see how far we could go.
Right.
This is my significant other, so that's why I'm saying we. He owns it. I just moral support. So anyway, he we thought we could try and see how long we could keep it open because there's a local
Yeah, there is.
clientele. But man, for one, it's slow to begin with in the winter. Add on to it, COVID, people are staying home. Add on to it the surge of COVID. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's like everybody in the town was saying, I'm positive, or I've been exposed to positive. And we're like, let's just kind of take a hiatus.
Be smart.
for now.
Be smart.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to be safe. So Stick and Rudder, when it's open in March or April. And there you go.
I can't wait.
Did I leave anybody else out?
I don't think so.
Those of you on my Patreon, thank you.
Yes, you left out you, viewer, right
You.
now with a business.
The viewer, yes, me,
Yeah.
I'm the whatever. Okay, thanks
I'll have
for
to talk to my brother, Whitey, about this. And Proietti's and Webster, yeah.
I
Give him
would
a
like that.
A little
Okay,
plug.
I think he just owes me $5 right now after
Yeah,
you said
okay.
that.
Let me see if I have that in my pocket. You take MasterCard or
Did
Visa?
you, does he have cocktails to go?
No, he doesn't.
Madge only accepts Bitcoin at this point. So hope you have
Now,
Bitcoin.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
No, I was going to make a swiping joke, but I won't. I'm my own Square register. Anyway.
I can't walk away from the mic for 2 seconds.
Hey, Hey, I got my reading glasses on because there's so much I want to cover with you. I could make this into like a mini series.
Thanks.
Because
My life has been a miniseries.
and you'd mentioned this before we started recording that I can't believe we haven't met in person because we have traveled in the same kind of media circles and whatnot for a few decades now. So with that, I got to mention, I was looking at your LinkedIn and you're a Newhouse grad.
Yes.
My daughter's a senior at Syracuse.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, it's every week is a new disappointment for her. I feel so bad, because
we're just going through this with my 17-year-old granddaughter, Elizabeth Marie, who lives in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Syracuse, one of the places she's looking at. But she keeps saying, Papa, I just hope my first year at college is not as big a disappointment as my senior year in high school.
I know. I feel so bad for these kids, but you know what?
They're going to be all right.
They are.
Yeah. My son's a senior right now.
Oh, how's he doing?
He's all right. You know what?
What, kids? Shit happens.
Stuff could burn. He is the most positive kid in the entire world. I don't know how he does it.
That's fantastic.
Kids are resilient.
He's extra resilient. My daughter is not as resilient as he. So I got to really, take my hat off to him. It's amazing.
I got to say, I am so glad my children are not small. I don't know how I would do with the.
Right.
Oh yeah, imagine like toddlers and
with the homeschooling and
unbelievable.
Me I was a single mom. My kid divorced when the kids were like all under the age of 7, and then my ex lived out of state, so I had him 24/7, and I was working, and I can't even freaking imagine. So. Trying to also do the school component. Right. So to any of you people doing that right now, single moms, single dads, parents in general, God bless you. My hat's off to you. And I'm hoping that this whole situation will have us take another look at learning.
Absolutely.
Individual learning.
Not just learning, too. My son is a futurist, so he does a lot of work in the innovation field. He's written one book. He has another one that's coming out soon. And he's very bright. He went to Georgia Tech in mathematics.
Is he a rambling wreck?
He went to Geneseo as an undergrad and rambling wreck in Georgia Tech. And he's a brilliant guy. He really is. And he keeps saying that the pandemic will be just like the Industrial Revolution when it comes to changing the scope and scale of human beings and how we interact with machines and with each other.
Absolutely.
Last year was the first year that I met a futurist. And I was really expecting something completely different when she walked in the door. And she said she was a futurist. I don't know. I expected her wearing some sort of shiny suit and
the tin hat,
walking in with lasers and I am a futurist.
Cyborg.
My son is the same way. You would never expect it from him.
So it's an amazing thing to be.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, is there a specific guideline for what's considered
clairvoyance is one? You have
it's
to
not
be
just
clairvoyant.
but my son is a mathematician, so he's constantly assessing analytics of
it's very analytical.
Human interaction. Where you can't hide our behavior when it comes to purchase behavior, especially. So he's watching how many iPhones get sold, how many iPads are sold, how many, and then how often are they being used? Because time spent, this, you're a broadcaster. Time spent listening, time spent using is spectacular, and it's a thing we all underestimate. If you told me that I spent 9 hours a day on my iPhone, I look at that number every week and go, how could that be?
I know when that
9 hours
comes
and
up,
3 minutes.
I know.
How did that happen? We never expected this. So, my son is collecting that kind of data. It's the kind of work that every ad agency is forced to do now, too. A company like Butler Till specializes specifically in that, in data analytics, and it's just a whole new field. And from that, we can extrapolate all kinds of things about human behavior.
Oh, I know.
What direction it's headed in. And
Well, yeah. I think a part of being a futurist, and is something that I do, is you have the ability to look at the big picture.
Yes.
And I like that. So I think I have that ability, although I don't necessarily have the means or the guidance to have whatever. But I do tell you, when March came around and everything shut down, and then like the first thing I heard the first couple of weeks about Zoom meetings. I've used Zoom before. I bought stock.
Wow,
that's
smart.
Brilliant.
But all I had was like $50.
All right. So the $50 has become $600 probably.
I can't remember the last I looked at it. It was some ridiculous thing like 800. It's gone up like 800. I don't mean $800, but percent. Yeah, it's like, so maybe that's a career I should consider.
Well, I'm also an investor, so that's one of the things I've done all my life, and I watched my family who didn't invest spend their money and be happy about spending it, and they gambled a lot of it away. But on my side, I was the cautious investor who ended up in 2012. I looked at how much I had, and I said, oh, I can retire? But walking away from college teaching was so difficult because I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why I can have a mini series with you. All right. So for our listeners and for me, so what exactly is your background?
Yeah, background.
When did you start?
I went to Franklin High School in Rochester, so I grew up in the city. I'm a city dog. And I was an athlete. I was the president of my class. I was one of those guys. And when I was 16 years old, I met Donna Sortino, and she changed my life. And we've been together since then.
Yay.
So I just left her a few minutes ago. And
not left her.
No, I can't wait to go home again.
This just in.
She's a beautiful person.
The first media outlet to figure this out is Madge Unmuted. You heard it here first.
Well, she wouldn't mind it. You know, she's actually really kind of happy that it came out today because I'm a golfer. And so once the bad weather comes, she's stuck with me in the house, and I'm high maintenance.
My God.
I'm a presence. I'm a physical presence, a mental presence. I'm asking questions all the time, and I value her opinion like crazy, and my wife would much rather sit there reading Moby Dick.
She just wants you to shut the hell up.
Just keep quiet. Okay. Go into another room. I have this little pet. I broke my ankle in April playing golf.
God.
So for 3 months I was on the shelf. But I sit and watch TV, and I have this little pedal that I pedal
wanted one
thousands
of
pedals of steps a day.
That's
and
so
she
neat.
says, go pedal and watch something else, or go pedal and read something else. But she's a wonderful person. So back to the background.
Yeah.
I was the middle of 3 children, 3 males. Lily Sortino. That's my wife, Lily Marino, and Pat Proietti. And my dad was born in 1920, my mom in 1921. They went to city schools. Yeah, so same generation. Yep. My mother would have been 99 this year.
My father last week would have been 98.
Yeah, that's amazing. And they were Depression people. So
they
were also business people.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, no.
Mine were Irish Catholic. Everything was like, we're not worthy.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Well, we were all Italians, half Sicilian and half Abruzzese.
Ooh.
And so there's a lot of happiness in my family, but some certain amount. There's always a little bit of unhappiness. And then I went to St. John Fisher College as an undergrad, even though I'm not at all. I was never religious. In fact, I grew up in a house where my father didn't like religion.
Oh, really?
And he especially didn't like Catholicism. So.
Wow.
So we grew up Catholic light. In fact, I have to tell a real quick little story. Yeah. Well, Louise and I have had this conversation many times because he's Hebrew light and I'm Catholic.
Exactly.
I'm not Catholic at all.
My sister's husband, she's now a widow, he used to call himself Jew light. Not as correct, but yeah.
But on Sunday mornings, what my father one day said to the 3 boys, and I was probably 13 when he said it, 13 or 14, he said, my mother would want us to go to Church of the Annunciation on Norton Street.
Oh, boy.
And so instead of going to church, my father said, why don't you guys go bowling? And whoever comes in last, go pick up the bulletins and convince your mother that you went to church. So we did that, and we had about 20 guys bowling on Sunday morning, and the losers would all have to go pick up the bulletins to bring them back to their mothers.
Oh,
and
my
they
God.
never asked us what anything was about. But one night, then my mother went in to talk to the owner at Marasco's Bowling Lane on Goodman Street. She was in there to sign up for a bowling league, and Willie Marasco, the owner, says, Lily, I have to thank you for letting the boys come here on Sunday morning. He said, you're saving my business. She said, what boys are you talking about?
Whoops.
And it was us, the 3 boys. So.
Oh, boy.
And not just the 3 boys. It was a whole slew of neighborhood guys. Java Joe Pelosi, who passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We had a lot of really good friends. And
we were talking about that my ex-husband is from that same neighborhood, and you knew his father's generation.
His uncle, yeah.
His uncle. Yeah. They all went to St. Stanislaus.
Right.
So
I actually used to try to speak Polish, because the Franklin class was usually probably 20% Polish, and many of them spoke Polish. So, and it was probably Franklin was probably 30% African American and 10% Hispanic. And
Right.
Polish is a difficult language, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
It's
Oh, yeah.
very
It ain't
because
no
it's not
romance
like
language.
yeah, it's not based off the romance language. It's like
No,
when I
no.
tried to learn Finnish, I was like, yeah, forget it.
Eastern Cyrillic, they call it.
Yeah.
It's more like Russian than it is.
Exactly.
And a little
Yeah.
bit like German. It's got some of that in it. So I went to St. John Fisher, and I actually majored in 3 different things. I was a chemistry major. If you had asked me when I was 17 years old, I was going to be a doctor like my uncle, who was an obstetrician, Dr. Charles Marino, great guy, delivered
happens a lot.
4,500 babies.
Wow.
But
That was in one night.
I was going to say, you
Dude is a
beat me
champion.
to
the
it.
baby boomers, yeah, we were busy.
Coming out
Yeah.
left and right. Come on, put this way, put that way.
That's good. I like that. But one of the things that happened to me is I didn't like working in my dad's restaurant. So I got a job at the Democrat and Chronicle, and I worked in the sports department on Friday and Saturday nights.
Did you just walk in and say, hey, I want to
I actually went down there not even knowing what I took a bus and I went to the Exchange building, and I went into the front door, and the security guard was a guy named Clyde, I'll never forget, and he said, "Are you here to see Mr. Pinkney?" And I was like, "Well, I guess so." I didn't know. I had no idea. I was just walking in to fill out an application. I said I was here for a job, and he goes, "I'll take you up." And it was up on the 5th floor of the sports department, and I ended up working with a guy named George Behan, who was, you probably remember that name. He was a sports writing legend at the Democrat and Chronicle, and then he went to Channel 10 and Channel 13 and Channel 10, and George was sarcastic, brilliant, funny. He didn't mean to be funny either. He was always, talk about depression. Oh my God, he should have been sprayed with Xanax or something. But he was a great writer, and he was very smart. And I loved sports. My son is named Aaron after Hank, the baseball player.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
So I realized that I could maybe make a living in media. So I was graduating in 1967. Yeah, who knew?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And boy, were you wrong. No, I'm kidding.
But I worked at Channel 10 for a short period of time, and I interviewed Charles J. Lavery, the president of St. John Fisher, on a Saturday morning. And he was the best interview I ever talked to in my life. He was spectacular. He gave me, at that time, it was probably 2 minutes of film that was absolutely perfect. And then he said to me as I was wrapping up the equipment with Ralph Mudge, who probably is listening to us. You know Ralph.
Yeah.
So
Name I haven't
wrapping
heard
up
quite a
equipment, and Charlie said to me, he said, "Have you ever thought about teaching in a college?" And I looked at him and I said, I was 22 years old. And I said, "No, I'm going to be the next Walter Cronkite." And he goes, "That's never going to happen." And I wanted to say to him, "Yeah, sure, piss on my parade."
Yeah, thanks a lot, pal.
Father, whoever you are. And I never called any priests fathers because of my father. So he said, your dean at the Newhouse School was my college roommate. And he said, he thinks you'd be a really good teacher.
Wow.
Long story short, he wined and dined me a little bit, and he said, "Why don't you come and spend a year?" He said, "I'll give you $500 more than you're making at Channel 10, and give it a try." I went home and told my wife, I said, "Do you think I should try it?" And by the way, right before I left the interview, when he offered me the position, he said, "Do you know the best 3 reasons for teaching in a college?" And I said, "No." And he said, "June, July, and August." And I said to my wife, I said, "You know what? Let me go try it." So we tried it. And so I've been married to Donna Sortino since 1967. But we've literally been together 58 years. Think about that. She's just a spectacular person.
That's
so she's
awesome.
shaped my life a lot. And I started the communication program at Fisher, and then I stayed there 14 years. And I went to work at the Time Warner, Time Warner Cable. I was the VP of marketing for about 5 years. And then I took a big buyout out of there, and then went back to college teaching. I went from making $100,000 a year to making $24,000 a year in 1985. I took that much of a cut, but I got my life back because I had put on an awful lot of weight, and I was drinking a lot, and I was using illicit things, and
Jesus.
I was missing my family. But I had to. It was tough leaving. I had to. But my wife went back to be she was a kindergarten teacher in Rochester City Schools. And I found my passion again in college teaching. I didn't realize, if you had ever told me when I was even 23 years old that I would spend most of my life as a college professor, I would have died laughing because I thought most of them were buttheads. And in many ways they were. I mean, they were not caring. And one of the things I learned really quickly at Fisher, and I credit Charles Lavery with a lot of this, and a guy named Pete Spina over at MCC who gave me they gave me a lot of good advice about being a good teacher. And being a good teacher for me was to be really different than most of my professors were. I kept thinking back to, what was it that was missing? Why don't I care about most of my teachers, and why were there a couple actually I hated?
Oh, yeah.
And it was all about, customer intimacy. It was a marketing thing.
Oh, I had...
So I used to walk into my classes the first day. If you ask any of my former students, walk into class and say, the next 3 months is going to be a love affair between you and me. I'm going to love you so much that if you screw up, I'm going to call your mother. So... And I had many people who are on the air today and in this business and have now starting to retire. A lot of them, I had 20,000 students. So
wow. Yeah.
I'm very blessed. And on Facebook, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, which is the max.
Yeah.
And those are my former students for the most part.
So anybody on Tom's Facebook, you can friend me too, because I don't have that many.
And we're going to promote Madge's.
Madge
podcast.
Unmuted. Madge Madigan.
I got in when the getting was good. I don't remember how many you had, but it was less than 5,000.
Yeah, it's in 2006, I'll never forget my best friend in the world, one of my best friends in the world, Jack Garner, who we lost last July. Jack and Bonnie
see him in church all the time.
Well, we were at having dinner at the little theater, and Jack and Bonnie, you know how Jack used to walk. Yeah. I'm picturing this walk, and it's making me want to cry right now.
I know.
I just love the guy, and I love Bonnie madly. I mean, they're just two of the best human beings anybody ever created. But Jack comes walking in, 2006, I'll never forget, a Friday night, and he goes, "I got to talk to you." And he's sitting down, he takes up all this space. He sits down and he goes, "I just figured out what you're doing with Facebook." He said, "It's really different." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Facebook's a classroom for you, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It works perfectly." I said, "You throw ideas out and you have an interaction and you have them." One of the things I realized when I was 23 years old, teaching, actually 22, we were teaching the first class at St. John Fisher, and it was an all-male Catholic college.
Oh, yeah.
So 30 priests teaching there, six laymen, all men. It was all male faculty, all male everything. And then there was me, who was, I was a 22-year-old hippie. I let my hair grow and I was against the Vietnam War and a whole slew of things. And I realized, boy, the smartest people in the room. I got this actually from my wife. I had my wife come to watch me teach a class because the first 3 weeks I was teaching at Fisher, I had these 15 brilliant guys, including Mark Hare, Jimmy Callan. I mean, just brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant group. Bob Shea, who worked at Xerox for years. Mm-hmm. And they were just some of the smartest people in the world. And after the class was done, I asked my wife, I said, "How did I do?" And she goes, "Jesus, you're boring." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "You're boring." She goes, and she said, "Plus you look like a monkey," because I still had the tie on. I had a tie and a sport coat. She goes, "Geez," she said, "Why don't you dress like you dress at home?" And I mean, it was so liberating what she said to me. And she said, "And by the way, start asking them some questions instead of talking at them. Everybody's talking at you." Think about that. 1968.
Well, yeah, that's
perfect time.
That's what my problem was growing up, that I'm a very interactive person.
I can tell.
I don't shut up. But I have an anecdote for everything. And as I've always said my whole life, I think in one-liners.
That's so cool.
Not exaggerating. I do,
Don Rickles.
Everything is like, "That's what she said," in my head. But, I'm not kidding. So here's me.
By the way, it took me about 7 years to realize that's what she said, what it was about. That's how dull I was.
So going to Catholic school when I was little, I wanted to say something, and it was always... and so I started doing it to myself.
By the way, she was just slapping herself on the hand.
Yes.
It's radio.
So they were always, I was always getting in trouble. And I grew up thinking I was the world's worst child, hoodlum, evil.
Isn't that astonishing?
Thing. It was. I thought I was the worst person in the world. And I really thought I was, the black sheep, loser, hellion, whatever. And then somehow later on, talking to other people as you get older, 30s and whatnot, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got arrested and I skipped school and I used to go out and smoke pot during lunch and I'm like, I never did any of those."
You're the good person.
I know. I was like, I guess
Sister Madge.
I know. I couldn't shut up. That was my only crime. So, but now I do like interactive learning when someone's just not just talking at you. Do you that's why I actually like online learning, because
so did I. I was part of the first group of 12 teachers in the United States in 1995.
Really?
Who taught the first online class.
That's
and
very
it was through
cool.
UCLA.
Oh my
UCLA
gosh.
kind of invented this.
With dial-up? How the hell did you do that?
Dial-up. I used to have to
Jeez.
dial in at 6 o'clock in the morning, the first class, on AOL. We used to have to dial it up. And then while we were teaching the class, we were also taking the class. So we had been handpicked to be the guinea pigs. Because I was a technology person. I love technology. And Pete Spina asked me, he said, would you be interested in teaching a class online? I'm like, I didn't even know. Yeah, in 1994, who knew even what online meant?
Yeah.
You know, we weren't
Exactly.
quite sure what it was, you know, and
Right.
let alone possibility of doing instruction online.
Were you doing it in DOS?
No, it was on a platform called Angel. It was this platform that somebody invented at UCLA, and I think it's still out there because I did it online. I taught for 15 years online.
That's so cool. Yeah,
it was great. It was, but it doesn't work for everyone.
Exactly.
Because
like
we all have
were
different
saying,
learning styles.
Yeah, my daughter, goes to Syracuse, and she's been doing online learning this whole year, and she hates it.
Yeah.
But she's still
She's good at it, though.
like I said.
Something else I realized about college teaching, and this is something I wish I had been able to do, and is I kind of invented it on my own, but I don't know if, I'm sure other people have done it, but it's a lot of work, is when my student, I never gave tests. I don't believe in testing. It just it just doesn't work. I mean, it's not a good assessment device.
Yeah.
And especially in the media field, I had them do projects. So I would have them do invent a newspaper to compete with USA Today, launch a program that's like, Seinfeld and Friends are out there. What's ABC going to do? So I would come up with ideas like that, throw them out, and say, let's do a project. And then when they did it, I would tell them, you know what? If you got an incomplete or something like that, because I rarely gave D's or F's. My brother Whitey always says the only reason you were popular is because you gave all A's and B's. But what I would do is tell them you can resubmit it. I'll give it back to you. And if you don't resubmit it, if you got an incomplete, it'll become a C. And if you got something less than that, you'll own that grade. But if you want to resubmit it, just hand it in with the original one, and let's, because college is an incubator.
Yeah.
And my colleagues used to get so angry with me because they'd say, you come across as being really popular and really generous, and you let them do their assignments over again. And
God,
I'd say,
that's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I do let them do the assignment. And I said, because it's an incubator, and it creates a lot more work for me, but it's worth it. And then, in my life, 20,000 students, and I think a lot of them remember me because of that, because I actually cared about them. I mean, I literally, it was a love affair for me. I can't believe I got paid for college teaching. I really cannot believe that somebody would trust me. I mean, with my ideas and my personality, they would put me in a classroom with 30 great kids and radiant minds. They were so beautiful and brilliant. I would have them write every class. Always have them do some writing every class. Because I knew, when I was that age, I had so many ideas going through my brain, and I would collect them. And even if they didn't grade them, I would just want to look and see, what are you thinking about? What's on your brain today? I really learned so much in 1970. The Kent State stuff happened.
Oh.
Because those kids at Fisher, I mean, that was the first time the campus ever exploded. It exploded in a way that, the priests didn't know what to do. They were completely baffled. But not Charles Lavery. Charles Lavery understood tapping into the energy that was there. And he called me and he said, what are we going to do? I was 24 years old. He said, what are we going to do? How are we going to take advantage of this? And I said, well, some places are doing teach-ins and other places are doing this. And some places just have suspended all classes and are just giving everybody, passing grades, just turn everything. And he took all those ideas and even came up with 30 of his own.
Wow.
And we had 2 months of just spectacular interaction, education, whatever you want to call it.
Do you know what else came out of the Kent State?
Tell me.
DEVO.
Tell me more.
Whip it.
Yeah. They
wow.
Mark Mothersbaugh.
Yeah.
Yes. They
Awesome.
I don't now I this is just a summary. I don't know if all of them or only 2 or 3 of them were students there. And 2 of them for sure
I never
witnessed
heard
it.
this.
Yeah. They were on campus up on a hill.
Up on the hill looking down.
Yeah, looking down, and they witnessed it, and they how do I summarize this? Look it up. I mean, because it's
will,
right.
yeah.
They were students and they witnessed it, and they were, a creative minds, and I think they were already having a band, but anyway, that affected them profoundly.
Sure. Well, just like last
right,
Wednesday, what happened?
Absolutely.
That's going to be that's American history forever.
Right. And so what the word or whatever DEVO means is de-evolution.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a theory that they derived from this event, that humans are de-evolving, I think, as we've witnessed lately.
I was
as
just
well.
going to say.
And, you go reverting back to, barbarics and so anyway, DEVO, they built on that and then went into the.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody read it. It's absolutely fascinating, and they are brilliant.
Yeah,
each one of them is just ridiculously intellectual and intelligent, and boy, just yeah.
What a great moment.
Yeah, I mean. That's the thing. I keep reading about, because I'm kind of into spiritualism and astrology and stuff, and that, and I believe this anyway, that and things that happen, good comes from bad.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what this all is, a big old stew right now.
Well, it's the incubator
of change.
If you think of our lives as we're just going through an incubator. No, this is what we are. We're the little chicks with the light on, hoping to keep us warm enough, and we get enough food that it makes some sense, and then we walk out of there and somebody kills us and eats us. So that's kind of life too. I'm not bad with that either, because I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking I used to measure my years left and what I have left in my life by years. Now I measure it by months, and probably next week in 3 weeks I turn 75, and I think I'm going to start measuring it in days and thinking,
Tom.
no, it's okay. No, see, that's the problem. I'm not afraid of the end of my life, because I live so much every single day that everything I get, I'm grateful for. So that's the flip side. Talk about de-evolution. Well, on the other side of that is there are many of us out here who think every day is a gift. And it really is. This is a gift. You contacted me the other day, and I at first I wasn't quite sure, and then I said, no, this will be exciting, because I really need it. I need this interaction. I talk to everybody.
That's exactly what happened when she came to me and said she wanted to do a podcast. I was like, geez, I don't know. That could be I jumped at the chance to work with Madge. A lot of people say that
about me. Yeah. No, it's funny. Just not to talk about me, but yeah.
No, but let's talk about you.
No, it is I'm paying for the time.
By the way, in the men's
here.
room, there was something about Matt for a good time. Call Matt. Yeah.
That's pretty much in every bathroom on the East Coast. So, every person that's come in here, pretty much was like, "Wow, that's a lot different than I thought it was going to be." And
don't you? I mean, do you understand?
Love that.
Yes. Do you understand what you're doing here?
Yeah.
You're asking me to deconstruct my life. I listened to the thing that you did with Dino, and that was so freaking good. But it took about 10 minutes to get to this point where you were doing what we're doing right now.
Right.
But that's typical human behavior. That's okay. That's
sure.
But once you start deconstructing human life, if you can go back and look at your life and say, "Wait, these are the mistakes I made. These are the great things that I did." Like the smartest thing I ever did was marry Donna Sortino. I was like, "Oh man, what a guarantee that I would always have a soft pillow." Or even a trampoline, because I could go back to her, and she helped me always put things. She helps me put things in perspective. And also, she has had breast cancer twice, 2 strokes. She's had heart surgery. She's had so many things go wrong with her, and she comes bouncing back with a big smile on her face and says,
"I gotta meet this woman.
Oh, she's fabulous.
She sounds amazing."
And she would never do this. She would never. She's such a. Well, no, she's just such a private person, and I'm just the opposite.
Right. Right. And that's what I have had with having a partner is I actually talk about deconstructing. For many, many years, I hid who I really was.
Wow.
Because I thought you have to be.
What a great thing to be able to say that.
Oh, God, yes. I brought what's the word? I don't know, calmed myself down, quieted myself down.
You closed yourself off.
To be the proper, normal person that I thought I was supposed to be. You know, don't be like that. Because when I was, you know, I graduated high school in '83, and I already had like, you know, the short kind of punkish haircut, and I was, which is nothing now. I had a short haircut, and I was in high school then. It was like, ooh, she's weird. She likes Devo, and you know. Yeah. So, excuse me. So I thought I had to keep, you know, normalizing, conforming. I guess.
Just think about you grew up as a Catholic.
Yeah.
What did the Catholic schools espouse? You had to behave.
Oh, absolutely.
It was discipline. You know, part of the St. John Fisher Creed is discipline.
Yeah.
And I say bullshit to discipline. I want just the opposite. I want creative explosions. Because I'm thinking about you and thinking, you probably went 50 years of your life holding everything back in.
Yes.
And a lot of that's a reflection of not just Catholicism, but also you're a female. One of the great things that happened to me in 1972 was when Charles Lavery, he calls me one day and he goes, the U.S. Supreme Court just legalized this thing called Title IX. And he said, and it's going to screw up everything.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said,
damn that
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we had just started letting women into the college. Talk about changing a college overnight.
Oh, I know.
And it changed the nature of the institution. And I looked at him and I said, this is some of the most exciting stuff we could ever have happen. And all of a sudden I understood and I watched women explode around me in this beautiful brilliance. And women basketball
Did you clean them up after they exploded?
Clean up on aisle 3. Clean up in room B109.
You know, and a lot of people don't think about that. Putting things in perspective, like you just said, you know, it's just 1972. Title IX. Like, and when I was in high school, we had to fight to have our girl sports.
Yes.
I remember being like, it was 1977. Yeah. You know, we were petitioning. We want to have a girls track team.
Yes.
Oh my God.
What high school was that?
Dunkirk High School.
Dunkirk.
And so anyway, down Chautauqua County, south of Buffalo, right next to Fredonia. So anyway.
Attica.
Rocks. It was just a little over. So anyway, but people don't realize how, like, civil rights.
Oh,
1968.
Spectacular.
I mean, but people who were born after that don't realize just how recent.
Oh, yeah.
It's still in our lifetime.
And they also don't realize how significant, like, every one of these victories was. And it also, Barack Obama used to say, he said it perfectly. He said, we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's what human rights are about, because this has constantly been, if you look at all human relationships, they're all about power. So even the relationship you and I have that's so brief at this point, it's still about power.
Sure.
The relationship I have with my wife, with my kids, these are all power relationships. That's not a bad thing. Right. That's a good thing. And what's involved in the power? What's at stake? And what are you trying to do? And am I trying to persuade you to my opinion, or am I trying to make you a better person? One of the things I loved with my 2 kids, and it's a good thing my kids had my wife as their mother, because for about 10 years, I was not a good parent. Because I was in absentia. I was spending way too much time at school. You know, and I was working. You know, and
that's what happens. We recognize these things as we get older.
Well, it took me a while, because one night my wife and I were driving home from a party. I think it was my 30th birthday party. So that's 1976. And my wife said to me, and we lived out in Macedon Center in Wayne County, 315ers, and we're driving out, and my wife said, I don't think I want to be Tom Proietti's wife anymore. I thought she was asking for a divorce. I almost drove off the road. And I stopped the car and I said, tell me more about what it is you just said. And she said, oh, I'm not asking for a divorce. She said, I just have to find my own identity. And 3 years later, she graduated from St. John Fisher. She graduated first in her class at St. John Fisher. And my colleagues used to come up to me, because my wife was taking classes. And my colleagues would come up to me and they'd say, do you have any idea how brilliant your wife is? And I had to look at them, and many of them I could say, no, I didn't. I thought I married a dumb little Italian girl. And I didn't realize I was going to be a college professor and that I would be around this world of ideas. No, I really did. No, it was so inconsistent,
it was a world, yeah.
And then all of a sudden I realized, I did marry this brilliant, brilliant person.
That's
she's not
fantastic.
just beautiful. She's not just a hottie. She's brilliant, and she's a great mother. And she was such a great kindergarten teacher. Oh my God, I can't believe how fabulous she was.
That's awesome. I have two things to say about that. Well, quickly, have you ever seen Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
Sure, I watch it religiously. Rachel Brosnahan is
Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh my God.
But there's so much going on in that show.
I know. I love that show,
Me too.
and I so badly want to be Mrs. Maisel. And that was the time frame I wish I had lived in.
Stand-up comedian too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and living and hanging out in the village.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
on the edge of
By the way, I was thinking about this last night. I watched Stephen Colbert and Chris Rock. The
Oh,
two of them talking about the first times they met. And I'm thinking, I should have been the third person in that room. Even if I couldn't participate, because there was a part of me that also wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
yeah.
Some of the first influences in my life were people like Red Fox.
Yeah.
My father brought home Red Fox albums. My mother used to go crazy. She'd say, he curses on those things. You know, that you had to buy them so-called under the table or underground. And so comedians have always had this profound influence on me. I tried once. I did 8 minutes of stand-up at the old comedy club, and it was torture. It was just awful. And somebody said to me, I think we said to me, he said, stick to teaching. And it wasn't even keep the day job. It was stick to teaching. You're probably good there.
Well, I did. Yeah, I wanted to be a performer in one way or another since I was born. I told.
Did you ever think about going out to California to do it?
No.
Be in a sitcom. You would have been such a great person in a sitcom.
I would love that. Yeah, but I hate California.
Oh, I love California.
No, I would. Yeah, that's my dream. I want to do that. And yeah, comedy since day one. And actually, the thing that hit me really profoundly is I'm the youngest of 6 kids. So when I was about I would have been 10, so 10, 11, 12 in there. My older brothers and sisters were watching this new show. Oh, that was so scandalous! Saturday Night Live.
Wow. Yes.
And my parents would go to bed, and
1975, right?
I would
First year.
sneak out there, and of course, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right.
For a lot of it, adult humor, but I'm like, oh. However, from that, I wanted to be Gilda Radner from the get-go.
Oh,
Wow.
She was
what a treasure, bro.
amazing.
Treasure.
And
Perfect.
so-
treasure.
So anyway,
Perfect word.
that was my thing. Okay, so that's Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It made me think of her. I can't think of her father's
manager.
No,
Oh,
her father's and the wife going to Columbia.
Oh, right.
And he's like, we can't.
The Tony Shalhoub
Tony
character.
Shalhoub.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so fantastic.
great.
Yeah, I mean that whole cast.
Tony
is-
Shalhoub, I had a chance to meet him once, and I said, so what's the dream of your life? He said, one time I want to play a Lebanese person. Because he always plays Jewish or Italian. He said they never cast anybody as a Lebanese.
So yeah, that was the thing. It was like your wife is taking a class and. Yeah, and
it was
that was
revolutionary.
and I think didn't she end up quitting because
Yeah.
spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched. But
Oh, it doesn't affect it at all.
Yeah,
No.
but so anyway, but my other thing was when you said she didn't want to be your wife anymore.
Yes.
That's what happened to me after my last child went off to college. Is I don't want to be the Zbelny kid's mom anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I still love you. I want to be your mother, but I don't want my entire identity was mother.
Yes.
For 26 years.
And did you take your husband's last name?
I did, but then I
came back.
it.
You came back and reclaimed your life.
I did.
No,
Yeah.
no, I think that's important.
Because well, everybody knows who my kids are. So Margaret Zbelny doesn't really roll off your tongue like Margaret Madigan.
Right.
And that's me. I can't be anybody other than Margaret Frances Madigan.
You know what you've done is you've created your brand.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And
It really is.
and then I got Madge as a nickname in college, and it went from there. But anyway, so that I cried and cried and cried and cried and
About
cried.
what? What did you cry about?
Because I didn't know what to do. I just didn't want to be I had no.
Because you've been mother forever.
I'd been mother, but also I kept doing these jobs that I hated just to bring in an income
Yes.
because I needed to feed my kids.
Just think about that. I never had to do that.
Yeah.
That's how lucky I've been in life.
Yeah.
I married Donna Sortino. And I always
You're lucky.
I always had a job that I couldn't believe that I got paid for. I used to tell Charlie Lavery, the president, I used to tell Pete Spina at MCC and all my colleagues, I would say, I cannot believe that this is my work. I come back from the day after Labor Day.
You're so lucky. Well,
and I walk into, the thing I have to do is walk into a classroom and have fun.
That's
we
what
would
I'm
laugh
trying
our
to do
asses
now.
off.
Make it
That's-
something I love.
That's a great way to look at it too, because there's a lot of teachers who don't see it that way.
Oh no, most of my
Right.
colleagues hated what they were doing.
I would
But
love
a lot
to
of
see
them,
it.
a lot of them were failures at the thing they thought they
Right,
wanted
right.
to be.
If you can't
They
do it,
thought
then
they-
you teach.
Right. They
you know?
thought they wanted to be
Oh,
something.
yeah.
They wanted to be an actor, so they couldn't be an actor. They became a drama teacher, and then they hated themselves because. And then they would hate their students, and I would think, wait a second, this is so you're so
It's
lucky
terrible.
to be here, and you got tenured, and you're making $70,000 a year, and you have the best health insurance in the world, and you have the three
Yeah.
best reasons for teaching in a college: June, July, and August.
Yeah.
And at St. John Fisher, it was May, June, July, and August.
Yeah, right.
We have the best lives in the world.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'll read all these books or read inspirational things that are like, do something you love. And if you do something, you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Blah,
That
blah,
was
blah.
me. Yeah.
Right. But there's also, that's a lovely
But you have to
thought.
pay your
and I'm
bills.
trying, yes.
Yes.
That's where I was. He was gone and not contributing, and so I had been a stay-at-home mom
And by the
before
way,
that.
think about the rules of the game that established that marital relationship and the child rearing and the whatnot. You took his name and what.
Yeah.
Think about the rules of the game are all wrong.
Yeah.
We've got to fix the rules of the game. I once, one of the things I did at St. John Fisher as a very young person, Charlie Lavery said to me one day, and I used to spend a lot of time in his office, and he drank a lot.
Oh, awesome.
He would have me drink with him. He'd call me
Oh,
up and he'd say,
that's-
"What are you doing?" And I'd say, "I'm getting ready to go home." And he'd say, "Why don't you come over and have a drink?"
It's like
So I'd go
Mad
in
Men.
I'd go in his. It wasn't like Mad Men, but I'd go in his office and he'd say, "You got to help me make St. John Fisher College cool." And I would look at him and say, "Charlie, this is going to be the project of the century because it's the most uncool place on the
the
planet."
time.
But he let me bring in people like Gloria Steinem, and I got to pick Gloria Steinem up at the airport because he looked at me and he goes, "Who the hell's Gloria Steinem?" And I said, "She's starting this women's liberation movement." And he goes, "Oh man, that's going to piss some people off, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's going to piss some people off." I said, "But if you want to make St. John Fisher College cool, we have to do this." I brought Richard Pryor to St. John Fisher College before he was a big hit. He had been on the Ed
Yeah.
Sullivan Show. It was probably around 1971.
Damn, look at you.
He was just a kid. I picked him up at the airport. I had a ball with Richard Pryor in the car. He
even
was
imagine.
so funny and sweet and kind and just brilliant. He was so good. Dick Gregory.
Oh, my God.
I got to bring Dick Gregory to St. John Fisher College, drive him in my car to the airport.
What is this, Fitzy, the driving people in their car professionally?
I used to be in Uber.
Last week,
Oh, yeah, Dino talked
Dino
about-
had, who'd he have?
had,
Bon Jovi?
Yeah, he had a whole bunch of
A
people
whole
in the
bunch of people in the car.
By the way,
in the van.
and at that moment, you don't think you're doing
Right.
anything significant.
Yeah.
You think you're doing, and how do we teach our kids to start stopping for a moment and saying, this might be a really precious moment in your life, and maybe you should sit down and write a poem about it, or just at least write something about it and
Yeah.
assess it. And like I do this with my oldest granddaughter and I. She calls me at least 5 times a day. She lives in Pennsylvania. And she calls
My
me
middle daughter does that, right, Lib?
but we talk about so many significant things, but a lot of it is just trivial, what we call fata communion. It's just, how are you? How'd the day go? Did you run? What's the weather like in Downingtown? But then it also then leads up to something really significant. Yesterday she said to me, and I think I put this up on Facebook, she said, "Papa, I have the attention span of a seagull."
I saw that.
And I
saw
said,
that.
"Wow, that is absolutely brilliant." I said, "But if you put French fries and they're a seagull," and she goes, "Oh, me too."
Just an aside,
There's all asides.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, that's what I do.
You're taking ornaments off the tree.
I am. Just how all things are connected. Like I find everything all the time. Like we've already had like 18 things in connection, but Downingtown,
Pennsylvania.
I can't remember, was it freshman or sophomore year? I think it was freshman year. At Dunkirk High, we took our band trip to Downingtown.
It's a great place.
They came to Dunkirk, and we went there, and we did the stay at each other's house. And
How cool is that?
I know, of all places.
And we did, we did something like that with French exchange students. I've had five women who lived, and they're like my other daughters. Only one of them I've lost. 4 of them are, she's living in Switzerland now, and she was our first one. But our 4 other ones are still they're in my life. Lolo, the 17-year-old daughter of our 3rd French exchange student, lived with us 2 summers ago. So here are these 70-year-olds with this gorgeous 17-year-old who I took to Durand-Eastman Beach every day.
It's like Long Duck Dong with Grandma and Grandpa.
You are freaking
What's
nuts.
happening?
Grandpa got his hyena. I'm a lawn mowing machine.
Lawn.
Okay, sorry. That's what I do.
Yeah. So, back to understanding significance of the moment. Understanding, it's not unlike one of the most important classes I ever taught in my life was interpersonal communication. It should be required of everyone.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's not.
You know what
and
else?
It's talking about things like who are all your relationships, and they're not just power relationships. They define you. They define you, your role as a child, your role as a sibling, your role as an uncle, an aunt, a father, and you start understanding those things. Your role as a teacher. I used to realize I walked into a classroom. That's one of the most powerful things in the world, especially with a group of freshmen in college who are just away from home for the first time, and they're sitting there and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to define themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So what I would do is help them define themselves. And once I understood that, I was like, wow, that's so freaking powerful.
There are so many things that happen in life that you don't understand until you step away from it.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of, but see, like, I always thought I was a pretty good communicator. And I'm like, what the hell do I need? Because I've taken, classes being a communications media. I took that. But also, I had like a section in a class on this or whatever. I don't think it was an entire class. I can't remember now. And I thought it was the stupidest freaking thing ever. Like, why the hell do you need this? And now I think it should be a freaking, and you know what that was?
Thing?
Critical thinking.
That's everything. That's everything.
I took it for granted that people do that. Today, I mean, not to get, but the people that just throw up information on Facebook. Yeah, see, this is right. No, did you bother? A meme is not a source, which was going to be my whole other. I wanted to get into journalism with you. I know. I'm telling you, this is part 1 of 6.
One of the saddest things about journalism, you just said this, and I was just, I don't get the DNC anymore. I just do it online. Yeah, and I've done like that since 2012. Yeah. And my career started at the DNC. Yeah, I think about that. And I have great reverence for journalists and what they're trying to do. But I said to my wife this morning, she said, what are you looking at right now? And I said, the DNC. And I said, and I feel so sad because there's 3 really great stories in here, but most of the rest of it is just doesn't touch my life at all. I'm not criticizing it. It just doesn't have any relevance to me at all. And what happened to change the industry? Well, technology for the most part.
Yeah.
So all the time I used to spend, people say, why do you spend so much time on social media? And I'd say, well, that's the time. That's my reflection time. That's where I gather information about the world.
Exactly. You know what I say when people talk about things, how bad social media is. Yeah, it is. It's some part. But
it's not, though.
But I was going to say, but it's not. Because you know what it actually is now? It's the old Times Square. Or the old pub.
Right, it is. It's a pub.
Public house.
Right.
Where you gather and you
exchange
ideas and information and misinformation and misinformation and lies and misinformation. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
No, but that's true.
But it is.
That's true.
And
it's not a bad thing.
Critical thinking. Right, but critical thinking. I just, people that just don't, I'm going off on a tangent.
But no, that's okay. I'm going to do an interview with you someday. I'm going to pay for it, too. I'm going to pay Fitz so I can interview you because you have so much to say.
Thanks.
I like where your head's at, Tom.
Yeah, you do. I know you do, Scott. But one of the things I was just going to say to you is, along with critical thinking, we are the only industrialized nation in the world that doesn't teach media literacy. Think about that.
Seriously?
Seriously. And we never will. The 5 years I worked at Time Warner, part of my job was to go to Washington and Albany to make sure we never passed legislation. And that's why I had to leave. I couldn't stay there. I said, no, this is so inconsistent because If you were the country that probably does it best is New Zealand. Mike Johansson just moved back, you know.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But just think about media literacy. If you go to a class, for 27 years, the first 2 weeks in January, I taught in London. And one of my favorite things to do, I taught a course called Media in the UK. And I would take students from St. John Fisher and Syracuse. And, it was fantastic. We had 70, 80 people, and we'd fly over together, and 2 weeks change your life. And
tell you, I had signed up for a 3-week trip like that to do I was at the University of Maine, and there was a 3-week May term thing to study at the BBC.
We would go to the BBC all the time.
My parents got my grades and said no. Jeez. Because I spent more time at fraternity parties. Yeah, I know.
It's life-changing. Go
listening to DEVO.
What'd you say?
Listening to DEVO.
Yeah, exactly.
Listening to DEVO.
Hey, I got
that's
an
a callback.
education there, though.
It's
we
life-changing.
bring it full circle.
It is absolutely life-changing.
I know.
Going to experience another culture. You want to talk about critical thinking, because then you go there with your favorite college professors, and you're in England, and the first and second nights you're there, you go to a pub together, and you're jet-lagged, but you're also just completely culture shocked.
Yeah.
And we would sit at the pub with fish and chips, and I would ask them, so what do you see that's different about England? You know, what's different about London than what you see at home? And the number one thing I would hear from kids for 27 years was, I didn't realize it was so cool. I thought America was the best country in the world. And here they flew across the ocean, and they got to a place that was just as cool, if not cooler, than any place in the United States. And that's such a shock to Americans, because we are taught American exceptionalism, talk about critical thinking, greatest country in the world. We hear it all the time. And we're not.
And if we're
just another country in the world.
We're not a patriot.
Yeah. Well, that's garbage. That's absolute garbage. And we have to reframe all of history about this. Yeah, we've just back in at the end of World War II, we let conservatives steal the American flag. I would love to own an American flag. I won't own an American flag because of the Vietnam War. Because think of what Donald Trump has done to the American flag.
I know.
He's made it a symbol of hatred.
He's made it into a pair of pants.
Yeah, and a pair of pants.
And a shirtless and a sleeveless T-shirt.
You're right. I mean, that's absolutely true. It's become a despicable symbol.
I do hate that one demographic has hijacked the flag.
Yes. They did that a long time ago too. That's not new.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know. You remember we used to flag wavers and Bible thumpers and whatever. But
and
that's a whole
most of what
thing
you were
for another
taught
time.
in history.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, most of it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the great tragedies of my life is I didn't know anything about slavery. I had no idea. And I grew up I went to an integrated high school, and we never talked about slavery. Think about that. And I had some of the best history teachers in the world. A guy named Ernest Du Bois. I had an African-American teacher. And now many years later, I said to Ernest, because he stayed in my life, and he just passed away a few years ago. He died at 93 years old. And I said, how come you didn't teach us about slavery? And he said, we weren't allowed to.
Oh, my God.
He said, they whitewashed history. This was an African-American teacher telling me that what I was taught was a fraud. And he was absolutely right. By the way, that's the same thing Gloria Steinem said. That's the same thing Richard Pryor said. That's the same thing Dick Gregory said. The smartest people in the United States are the people who understand that a lot of what we think is true is not.
Right.
It's a fraud.
Absolutely.
And if we can face that, we'll be much better for it.
Absolutely.
And again, back to Barack Obama, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
A lot of good things come out of bad things. So.
Absolutely. And on that note,
I love you.
I love the crap out of you.
This was great.
This was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And sign up my brother Whitey. My brother Whitey's going to be a sponsor, and I'm going to pay the bill. Because I love him.
You hear that, Fitzy?
I love him. He and I disagree about everything politically, but I love him. He's such a great guy. And he's a genius, and he has a fabulous restaurant. And I just hope it survives all this crap because it's just awful. And the same with Gines. Peter Gines.
I know.
Peter Guinness is one of my best friends in the world, and he's just a super, super guy.
Oh, God.
Boy, it's just amazing to see the love pour out.
Yeah. Well, let's cross our fingers. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you again soon. And let's collaborate on
Peace,
some more
love,
stuff.
and linguine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I want to thank Tom Proietti so much for being my guest this week. As always, thank you, Fitzy.
Fitz is the best.
Rockbox.
My pleasure.
Rockbox Studios.
Rockbox is amazing.
Go to rockbox.com and sign and list his services.
Thank you.
And do the legacy thing.
It's
really important that you do the legacy thing.
Okay, thank you so much. Signing off from Madge. Find me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, everything. Madge Unmuted. Go to my Patreon, Madge Madigan. Thank you, and sign up. I'll be very grateful. And follow me everywhere you can. And until next week, ciao.
Ciao, Bella.